There's times where you're working 24 hours straight or 27 hours straight, nonstop. Yeah.
What do you want to do after high school? This question stresses out every single teenager because the truth is, we can't make up our minds about what we're going to eat for breakfast, let alone a whole career.
But with applications around the corner, we need to do something about it. Join us every Thursday at 1, where we interview professionals in a variety of careers, so that one day we can answer this stressful question with confidence in our choices and ourselves. This is Career Hunt. Have you ever heard the terms anesthesiology, anesthesia, or anesthetics? Those terms belong to the medical specialty concerned with the total perioperative care of patients before, during, and after surgery. If we want to simply define what an anesthesiologist is, we can say that he's a doctor who puts patients to sleep so they won't feel pain during surgery. I'm pretty sure that it's not as easy and simple as that, because if you have to study 12 years in university to become an anesthesiologist and earn a pay of, are you ready for this? $210,000 per year, then of course it's not going to be easy. So let's talk about some of the main roles of anesthesiologists. So they check the patient's medical conditions and they determine whether the patient is able to safely undergo surgery. And they also determine which type of anesthesia is to be used for the surgery. And after the procedure is done, they provide pain management for faster and less painful recovery. So general anesthesiologists stay during the surgery and they check the patient's breathing, heart rate, and blood pressure, and they may also adjust the level of anesthesia if needed. So this field of study is very important. Although anesthesia and surgeries are much safer nowadays due to the development of science, but that doesn't mean that there is zero risk. In fact, surgeries and anesthesia are inherently dangerous. So that means that there's always the chance that something can go wrong. For example, administering too much anesthesia can cause the cells to be starved of oxygen, and oxygen deprivation can quickly cause strokes, brain damage, and even death. And also, administering too little anesthesia can result in the patient waking up during the surgery. I'm pretty sure no one would like something like that to happen to them. So that's why we have people who are specialized in anesthesiology. So now let's meet our anesthesiologist. I actually challenge you guys to say this word, it's very hard. Okay, so let's meet our guest now. So, tell us a bit about yourself and your journey to becoming an anesthesiologist.
All right, so my name is Khidr, or I go by Kato, and I was born and raised here in London, Ontario, and went to school at Western University, did a degree in physiology, and then went to medical school out in Halifax at Dalhousie University. And that's where I kind of found my love for anesthesia and decided I wanted to become an anesthesiologist. So I ended up applying and, thankfully got to return to London to do my residency in anesthesia, which is a 5-year program. I'm currently in my 2nd year, so hopefully 3 years from now I'll be a staff anesthesiologist.
Why did you choose it?
Sure. So the reason I decided to go for anesthesia is I like the operating room. I like working there. I think surgeries are pretty fascinating, and the fact that you can treat someone's illness so quickly most of the time. But what I found I loved even more was I like the physiology and pharmacology behind the anesthesia. And although it sounds so simple, putting someone to sleep, pretty much taking over, all of the body's controls. You're breathing for the patient, you're controlling their heart rate and their blood pressure, you're controlling their body temperature. Like when we put you to sleep, your body pretty much almost stops functioning, and we have to take over those functions, which I thought was fascinating. And I like that aspect of the job, which is why I went for it.
Can you describe a day in your job?
Sure. So my day usually starts off, around 7 o'clock in the morning. I usually have to show up to the hospital by 7, and I prepare my operating room and the medications and equipment I need to start my day, and I go see my patients. And usually the ORs, the operating rooms, start at 8 o'clock a.m. 8 o'clock, I'll have my first patient. We usually put them off to sleep, which is a more complicated process than it sounds. And I'm usually in the OR for the rest of the day until anywhere between 4 and 6 o'clock, depending on the day and depending on the surgeries. While I'm in the operating room, you're looking after the patient, making sure you keep them alive for their surgery. If anything goes wrong in the operating room, it's anesthesia's job usually to take care of it. So if a heart were to stop, or someone has an allergic reaction and has some really bad reaction in the operating room, usually anesthesia is the one in charge of dealing with the emergency situation. So we're always on the lookout to make sure everything's going well, and most of the time it does, but whenever it doesn't, we're the ones that need to be on top of it and control what's going on. Usually after that, my day ends at 6 o'clock, and look up all my patients for the next day and rinse and repeat the next day.
So this job is for someone who wants to be a leader?
Yes.
This job is for someone who wants to have a generous amount of time, free time?
No.
No? Okay. Someone who wants to work with others?
Yes.
Someone who wants to have a stable income?
Yes.
Someone who wants to be creative?
Yes, there's elements of the job that you can get creative with for sure.
Oh, really? Like what?
So there's different ways to put someone to sleep. Many different ways. It sounds kind of boring when I say it that way, but there's a little bit of an art to it, and to give the perfect anesthetic. And there's many differing opinions, different ways of doing it, and so yeah, you can definitely get creative in how you do it. There's no roadmap on how to do it every time.
Okay.
You have to take into account your patient and their medical illnesses and what surgery they're having. And once you factor all that in, you come out with this perfect plan of what you want to do.
Cool, I guess. Okay. So is it for someone who wants to get a job easily with their degree?
I assume you mean their undergrad degree?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I would say it's difficult to get. It's pretty competitive, and you have to work hard and know what you want if you want to get into it.
Okay. Someone who wants to start a family early?
Possible, but hard.
Is it because it has a lot of work and studying and?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of schooling. It's a lot of time consumption. And so although it is possible, and there are people that start families early in medicine or in anesthesia, it can be difficult for sure.
Okay. So what qualities does a person need to possess to be a successful anesthesiologist?
So you have to be a leader, and you have to be a good communicator. You're working with surgeons and nurses and the patient in the operating room, and have to be able to communicate and collaborate with them. You have to be flexible in your work environment, in adapting to what cases are given to you. You have to be a hard worker to get into the program. And I think those are the main qualities that I would include.
Do you have to sacrifice anything to become an anesthesiologist?
Yeah, I think I had to sacrifice a lot to get to where I am today. Alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful for where I am, and if given the option, I would do it all over again for sure. But you do sacrifice parts of your social life You do sacrifice a lot of your time. And I think that's just part of what you have to do to become a doctor and become, in my case, an anesthesiologist.
So what challenges do you guys face during surgeries, and was there ever an allergic reaction?
So during surgery, although from the patient's experience, all you experience is that, 1 second you're asleep and then at the end of surgery you're awake again, a lot happens in between. And so we have to make sure that although you're asleep, your body's not feeling any pain. Make sure that you're not responding to what the surgeon's doing. Make sure that we're hydrating you, keeping your temperature normal, that we're breathing for you. And so we're always monitoring all these factors and making sure that they're going well while you're having a nice snooze. I haven't experienced an emergency allergic reaction, but there have been times where, a patient, we might have trouble trying to breathe for the patient. And as you can imagine, you need to breathe to live. So there have been emergencies where, for example, we can't breathe for the patient, and usually we're quick to respond and can resolve it within seconds or a minute or two. So I have experienced that, but yeah.
What's your favorite part about your job?
I think there's a lot of parts that I like about my job. I think one thing that I like is that I get to, meet new people, and it's usually when I'm meeting these patients, it's usually right before they're going in for surgery, which is a really scary time for most. And one thing that I love is that I can be there and try to support them before what they're about to go through, and be a calming presence for them, and try to help them with their nerves before going in for surgery. And as an anesthesiologist, you're at the head of the bed. Sometimes patients are awake during their surgery, so we're there with them, talking to them, keeping them company, making sure they're comfortable throughout the whole process. And I think that's one thing that I really enjoy from my job.
So if you were to go back in time, would you ever change careers?
Absolutely not. I love what I do. It took a lot of sacrifice, as I said before, to get where I am, but I don't regret any of it. And I enjoy what I'm doing every day. I enjoy going to work every day. And I think that's the only way you can have a career in medicine and become a doctor. There's a lot of time commitment. There's times where you're working 24 hours straight or 27 hours straight, nonstop. Yeah, and you can't do that if you don't love something.
Yeah.
I definitely love what I do, and I wouldn't change it.
What's your advice for future anesthesiologists?
I would say that it can be scary sometimes trying to find a career in medicine. And whether it's anesthesia or any other specialty, sometimes becoming a doctor can be intimidating and seem like it's impossible. But one thing I learned is it's not impossible. And if you put in the hard work and you put in the commitment, anyone can do it. And anyone who's out there that's aspiring to become a doctor or an anesthesiologist, I just want to say that you can do it. Find the time and put in the work, and it'll happen.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And comment down below if you think this job is a good fit for you.
And if it's not, comment down below which one you'd like us to do next time.
See you next time.
Bye!